So I agree with you, what you're saying there, it needs to completely rewritten. I think you also need that look at the role life-saving guidelines as well, because I know for a fact a lot of the pools we used to do dives at the shallow end, but when you actually get the tape measure out and you measure from the top of the water to the top of the concourse, which I have done on several pools and stock, we've gone to relays, it's just hit the relay changeovers the water, swimmers in the water with them.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
but the lifeguards need to be following the guidelines.
Totally agree.
And they weren't. Some of their lifeguards weren't even inducted into that.
So we've got other issues. We've got other issues with the management of the facility, because when the mother went up and actually spoke to them and said, look, there's a problem, and they just dismissed her. That was the wrong thing to do. But that's another issue, and I can't go into all that too much because it's under active investigation. But consultation, what you pointed out there, Dave, you know, Royal Life Saving, who knows what that policy is, and who's read SP8 starting blocks, starting platforms, and SV 7.3 water depths? Janelle? Yeah? Karen? Yeah? Yeah? So, the other big issue is, under the work health safety regulations, if you go to regulation 39, you must, as a PCBU, provide information training and induction. Who's been inducted into this policy? Who's actually ever been inducted into this policy and actually talked through it? Show of hands. Other than us reading it and go, oops. So another thing that we need to cover off. And I think the other thing that would probably assist us is actually, if we have a policy and guideline that talks about risk assessment, let's put a risk assessment in there and let's talk about what the hazard is. If the depth is only going to be 1 metre or less, the hazard is shallow pool, control measure is, relays will start, and we're starting in the water, with your feet in the water, etc. And the same again for the other depths as well. The other thing that came out also from the investigation is, because of COVID disruption this year, and then the schools where they've moved their calendar and it's slid like we've had a few things happen with the sport generally, the Catholic education normally assess their kids with a pool lifeguard at the actual school meet to see that they're competent to 1, swim and 2, dive. Hasn't happened at all this year, and they've already got to district meet, and then they've gone to a pool, which most of them would be unfamiliar with, because the only club that operates out of that pool at Isaac in Canberra is the Ginninderra Club. So most of the kids that have come, they've come from down the southern part, over towards Queanbeyan or whatever, gone to Belconnen, and they've gone to an unfamiliar pool, which makes the majority of them novice swimmers, as far as I'm concerned, because it's an unfamiliar pool. And I think there's too much onus put back on an official, for me. I don't think the officials should be the ones that are required to assess the capability and proficiency of the swimmers. Because unless you're a coach or a swim teacher, that shouldn't be your role. Your role is to do the risk assessment and say whether or not we're going to be starting the water, or yes, it is safe to dive. But that's just something for you to think about, and there will be some recommendations coming out, and the TSA will be certainly advised of it.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks so much. Thank you, Rob. Bob and I had a chat about that case yesterday. I just thought it was a timely case. Only happened Thursday, and as Bob said, you might look at that policy and not think much of it again, but it does happen. So thanks for that, Bob, and stay tuned for developments. Okay, we'll get back to the agenda. Sorry.
I know it'll take a lot of work. Swimming South Australia, I had a look at their diving policy when I went into Broken Hill. They have every pool in the state listed with depths.
Okay.
So before I went out there, I knew what was okay for Broken Hill.
Okay. Thanks, John. So as I said, we'll go back on program, and our next item is panel discussion on the rules. So we have Neil, Dave, Ken, and Phil. don't know if you want to come forward or stay at the back, whatever you feel more comfortable.
Come forward.
Come forward. Come forward, probably because Josh is filming.
Hello, Brett. Where do you want us on the chairs? One of the amigos?
Yes,
Where's Chris? I like Chris here, then. You're alright. Where's on the chair?
There's one of FINA. Hey, come in. Where's the pool?
Josh walked out.
So we do have a couple of questions that we've received in advance, but anyone have a question from the floor, or would you like me to start off with one of the questions with?
Start off with the questions that have
Okay.
been submitted.
Righto.
Yeah, that's right.
You want it?
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, you're up.
So the first one is in relation to some breaststroke disqualifications at the World Championships. Now I know, Phil, you were involved. Phil probably can't divulge too much personal information about swimmers and things, but I think you can talk around that question.
So did you want me to also talk about the system that's used there?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay if I sit? Is that okay?
Speak up, tell again.
Sure, Graham. No problems. I'll stand up. Makes it easier. All right. So I was lucky enough to attend Budapest recently, and with the appointments that I was given, very lucky to be put in the video referee room for 3 days, so 6 sessions of that. Normally that room is for the FINA TSC guys. They're in that room judging, but due to COVID and due to travel and things like that, there were spaces available, and I was lucky enough to be put there. In summary, how that room works, just to give you an overview, we'd be sitting at a table very similar to this, and there's monitors. So each official, from a technical official perspective, looks after 2 lanes only each. So there's 5 monitors in front of us, and then directly opposite there is an operator running the system for us as well. At the top of the table, then there's the chief, if you want to call it, or the control room supervisor, who manages us and manages the process as well. So at the start of a race, naturally you're in a room, you can hear the whistles, you can hear things happening out on pool deck, but you're basically locked away. And there's no public access, there's no access from anyone else to come to that room, unless you're invited to come into the room. So it's a bit of a closed shop, if you want to call it that. So at the start of a race, as I said, we're on delay, but when we're watching the video at normal speed, just like we would on pool deck. So there's no opportunity to slow it down or anything along that sort of line. So you've got to make the call as you physically see the call. So at the start of the race, the operators opposite you will say first whistle or second whistle if it's backstroke, you're in the water, and then your screen will come on. So at that stage, all you've seen is a blank screen from there. Your screen will come on and you'll see your 2 lanes only. You may see legs and arms from a lane next to you, depending on the lane that the 2 lanes you're looking after. As the race starts, you're basically sitting, the picture is you're sitting on the bottom of the pool looking up, or sort of looking across at the swimmer as they start the race or enter the water. You can see the 15-metre start as well, so if they go past the 15, you can observe that. However, the responsibility of 0 and 1 looks after, their camera looks straight across and they can see all of the 15s, so they can make the call as well. As the race progresses, you're watching feet, arms, legs, whatever happens throughout the race. You can see the turns clearly, you can see the swimmer as clearly as I can see, probably as close as John Williams from me, so straight up very, very, very close. You see the turns, you see the finishes, you can see if they're completely submerged, so you watch that whole race. as the race progresses, if you think, oh, sorry, the word think, if you observe something, you put your hand up and say, review on lane 2, for example. And in the meantime, your supervisor, who was Ryan Arblaster for most of the time he was there, will radio straight away to the referee and say to the referee, there's a video review on lane X. Okay, so the referee straight away knows in the ear something's going to happen, so at the end of the race there's going to be some sort of pause. Depending on where you make the call, we may check it straight away, or we may check it at the end of the race. And in front of you, you've got a mouse, like a winding mouse, however you want to call it, where you can actually wind the race back and forward at slow motion then. So as I said, you're watching the race at normal speed, you've got to make the call at normal speed. Once the race, as an example, the race is finished, we've made a call on lane 3, the supervisor comes over, looks, winds it back forward, looks at it, and then makes the call yes or no, it's a disqualification. So you're making the call of a disqualification in the room. Then if that's approved, it gets radioed through to the referee, disqualification, goes on the board, disqualification happens. The operator, whoever on those lanes, then writes a DQ slip out themselves. That goes to Ryan, Ryan approves it, then it gets taken out, or sorry, somebody will come and collect it and takes it out to the referee to do the final sign-off. So in summary, that's a quick flow of how that room works. Naturally, there's no photos, videos or anything I can show you because we're not allowed to. So the system's actually a private system, a company that comes and does it, a bit like Hawkeye for tennis or something along that sort of line. But naturally, at that level, they've got the money to pay for those sort of systems to do that. Now, if there is a disqualification, a bit like what we've talked about today, within a couple of minutes, there's a call through to Ryan saying there's a coach coming to review that video. They're there very, very quickly. They'll come in and they'll go to that end computer. Ryan will show them, or the swimmer, whoever appears. And out of all the DQs that I was there,